We'll also have some meeting notes that we can share out after this meeting that I'm happy to do as a follow-up to this meeting. But just one thing, I wanted to make sure that you all knew that we were recording. Yeah, why don't we just get started? So as you all know, I'm Angela, and I thought we'd actually just get the meeting started by just doing like some hellos and welcomes and introductions. So even though all the organizations that are participating in Audience Lab are the same and the organizations that come to the meetings are the same, there's sometimes new faces in the group, and I know today there's some new faces in the group. So I thought it would make a lot of sense to just kind of go around and do some welcome and introductions. I thought it would be nice if you introduce yourself with your name, your festival and or your organization, where you're from, since we're from all over Massachusetts. And then I actually thought it would be nice if you could share something that you love about your festival or your community. I think something that everybody actually has in common is that their festival is really focused on engaging their community. That might be their geographic community, or it might be a slightly different type of community. But I think everybody does this and puts on these events because they actually really love their community and the community they work with. So I would just love to hear that. Anyone who's welcome to, who wants to go first is welcome to go first. Oh, and sorry, one housekeeping question. I saw some of the chats that were coming through. Yes, it would be great if you could keep yourself muted unless you're speaking. I will say though, before you speak, double check that you've unmuted yourself. And I say that just because just now I was trying to talk a couple of times and I realized I was muted. So just double check that you're not muted. So anyone who just wants to start off by introducing themselves and saying hello, you're welcome to start.
Hello, my name is Rafael, and I'm here with
Juan Carlos Gonzalez.
We are from IVA, Inquilinos Boricuas en Acción. It's a community development corporation in Boston. Our festival, it's Festival Betances. It's a 47-year festival. I mean, the festival has been for 47 years here in the South End. And what do I love about the festival? I love that it's in summer and it feels very community-based. And it's Latino performances.
Great. Thanks for sharing. And just, for everyone and everyone in the group, Rafael and Juan Carlos were not with us in October, but their colleagues Vanessa and Rachel were at the in-person meeting.
Great. I'll follow that up. I'm Carla Costa. I'm with Florence Night Out, which is a one-night festival and sort of block party in a neighborhood in Northampton, Massachusetts, in Western Massachusetts. I live in that area, and so do my colleagues. So in Northampton and Amherst area. And I think what we love most about our festival is that it's a combination of things, but the activities that we have are interactive. So we bring people out to engage with art and participate in it in the process. So I think that's something that we really love about it.
Thanks, Carla.
And I'm with Donna Bell, and I concur. I'm with Florence Night Out as well. So having people be part of the festival instead of just spectators is a really great thing about our festival.
Hi, I'm Sandy with Creative Arts Network, and our festival is the Waterfront Art Music Festival in Fall River, Mass. And I think what I like about our festival is that it's on our waterfront, and we get to showcase the Battleship Massachusetts, which is the state memorial. And I also love the fact that it gives people an opportunity to come and enjoy and experience art and culture for free.
Great. Thanks, Sandy.
Hey, I'm Athena Pandolf with the Natick Center Cultural District. Our festival is Art Walk in Natick. And I guess what I love about it is that it just brings together just the community, the businesses, and the artists. And it's just a wonderful event to see them all together on the street, sharing their artwork. And it's just a wonderful event.
Hi, I'm Archana.
from Natick Center Cultural District as well. And yeah, I just wanted to echo Athena's thoughts. It's in the summer, like someone brings the community together, brings people of all ages together. So it's a good intergenerational event as well.
Great, thanks.
Hello, I'm Eric from the New Bedford Jazz Fest, and I think what I love about my event is that, I mean, especially as a jazz fan, is that we really, all we do is feature jazz or jazz very closely related jazz music, whereas a lot of music festivals are just that. They're music festivals that are more generic in the fact that they bring lots of different music. So diversity is great, but jazz festivals often call themselves jazz festivals, but then end up having lots of different kinds of music that don't have anything to do with jazz. So we kind of stick to that, and we think that's our bread and butter, which makes it a fun event for us.
Go ahead. My name's Kate. How do I get it to, okay, hi everyone.
We can hear you, Kate.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm from the Nolambika project that is based right along the Connecticut River in Greenfield, Massachusetts. And our festival is the Pecumtuck Homelands Festival, and it's held in Turner's Falls, Great Falls, which is the traditional home of the Pecumtuck people. And I love our festival because it's held right there on that beautiful river and celebrates indigenous music, artisans, and cultures, and brings people of all heritages together. And it's always been an important Native gathering place. So I just love it. It's so positive.
Thanks, Kate.
Hi, this is Deb Cravoy, and I'm with the Pioneer Valley Jewish Film Festival. We're based out of Springfield in Western Mass. And what I love about our festival is it's a great showcase of really high caliber independent film from around the world. But more than that, it's really a chance for a lot of the themes of the films to tap into very current topics around social justice and civic engagement. And it's really fun to be able to connect to lots of partner organizations doing that kind of work in the area and make it a lot of really important community engagement work, as well as a great film festival.
I'm Nicole Longy, also with Pioneer Valley Jewish Film Festival, and I would echo Deb's statements. One of the best parts about our festival is the programming, the talkbacks, and the engagement after the films and the screenings.
I'm Debbie Whitehead. Hi.
Debbie, do you want to share something you love about the festival?
Well, actually, because I'm always stuck in my office most of the year, I actually really enjoy when I get to go out and volunteer at a couple of the events and see the happy, smiley faces who, especially people who come year after year, because there is something new in it every year, and I just love the community aspect of it.
I'll go. I'm Maggie. My festival is Dancing Queerly. We're based in the greater Boston area. I live in Roslindale. And did I say my festival is Dancing Queerly? I forget. Dancing Queerly, and I love that we create a space that doesn't exist year round. So I love that we get to bring people into something special and create a really unique community, even just temporarily. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica Bergoli. I'm also with New Bedford Jazz Fest. Some of my favorite things about it is that it's in the summer on the waterfront, so it's a really great location. And I really love jazz music, so it's great to have a festival around it.
I can go. Hi, my name is Clemencia Herrera, and I also represent Festival Betances by Inquilinos Boricuas en Acción, and it's a 2-day Latino cultural festival in the South End. Something I love about it is that it's not just a music festival, it is a cultural festival. And there's young groups and resident groups and smaller groups around the city that get to display their culture and their talent just as much as the bigger artists can.
Great. Let's see, who hasn't introduced themselves? Donna, do you want to introduce yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, I can't see, but I can hear.
Oh no.
I can't get my camera to work. Anyway, hi, I'm Donna Fred. I am with Authentic
We can
Caribbean.
also see you.
Oh, you can? Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, something is wrong with my phone then. Okay, I'm from the Authentic Caribbean Foundation. I work with Andrew Sharp. And unfortunately, Andrew can't be with us. He has another engagement, but we feature the expo in the downtown area, Boston. And what I love about the festival is you get to see all walks of life, as well as we get to expose ourselves and our experiences to the rest of the world as Caribbean heritage.
Great. Have we got, other than the Arts Boston and MCC folks, is there anyone else who hasn't said hello yet? Okay, Chad, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. And yeah, for some reason I think I'm logged in under my colleague's account because my name says Audrey Seraphin. But my name is Chad Stroh. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at Arts Boston. And while Arts Boston doesn't produce the festival, I figured I would share one of my favorite festivals that I've experienced living in Massachusetts. I'm originally from Worcester, Massachusetts, and one of the largest arts festivals there is called Start on the Street. And what I love about it is that it literally feels like a citywide block party. You can't help but like walk down the street. You're seeing all of these artisans, all of these musicians performing, and then you're just running into friends left and right, and it's a really amazing community event.
Great, thanks, Chad. Lisa and Timothea, do you just want to say hello? I think everyone knows you, but you can reintroduce yourselves.
Hello, everyone. I am Lisa Simmons, Program Manager at the Mass Cultural Council and Manager of the Festivals Program. So what I just love festivals. I run a festival myself, and I think that they're an incredible way to bring community together. And all of your festivals we're really excited about, and people are talking about coming together maybe and doing a schedule of people's festivals and visiting people's schedules, and I think that's a great idea. So, so I just love being able to support you in the work that you're doing.
Hi, I'm Timothea. I'm a program officer with the Community Initiative, so I help Lisa with the festivals program. I live in Somerville, so some of the festivals I really do enjoy are things like Open Studios or, singular smaller festivals that do happen in those places.
Hey, and then Catherine, do you want to say hello?
Hi, Catherine Peterson. It's great to see everybody again at Arts, and I'm the Executive Director at Arts Boston. And I'm going to piggyback on my Mass Cultural Council buddies and just say that the Roxbury Film Festival is always a highlight for me every year. So tip of the hat to Lisa and her colleagues.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for taking the time to just sharing a little bit more about you and just, again, just continuing to get to know each other. I agree, I love the chats that I've been seeing. And one thing I can do is when I send out the meeting notes, I can just send out a schedule of everyone's festivals because I think I have dates for everyone's 2020 festivals. So I'm happy to just kind of throw out those dates to share them with everyone, just so you know. So for our meeting today is actually a training focused meeting. And what we're gonna do, just to run through the agenda quickly, we did some welcome and introductions. The bulk of our time this morning is actually gonna be spent with Chad. Chad is our wonderful featured guest, and he's gonna talk about social media best practices. And his presentation actually is going to build on two things. One, there is a webinar that he did for just all festivals, I think it was last summer, talking about social media best practices. So he's basically taking that presentation and building on that. But I also want to point out that it's actually informed by the meeting we had in October. In October, if you remember the very first part of the day, we had a series of questions just around your marketing and audience data collection. And there were also several questions about social media, and we actually put those in specifically so that Chad could prepare for today. So hopefully this will be a much more relevant session for you. The way that we want to run this actually is we're going to, so we'll do that, and that'll be most of the meeting. At the very end of the meeting, I'll just share a couple of quick updates about Audience Lab and what's going on for the next couple of months, some things coming up. And then what I thought I'd do, if people are interested, was I was just going to leave the line open. I'm happy to stay on the line for as long as people want to be on the line. And if you want to talk to each other, I noticed in both the September Zoom meeting and also the October meeting, people just kind of had all sorts of questions for each other, about your festivals and how they work and just things that you might want to learn from each other. So I'm just happy to keep the line open and just allow a space for that. So that's how today's going to go. Before I hand things over to Chad, just a couple of things I want to point out. One, it's really helpful if you can mute yourself. If you've got any questions while Chad is presenting, we thought the best way to manage this is actually for you to just stay muted and use the chat function. And if it's something that it makes sense for Chad to answer on the spot, I'll ask him to answer it on the spot. And if it makes sense to just kind of hold it until the end, then we'll just wait until the end of his presentation, and then we can have the Q&A and the conversation there. But we just felt that that was the easiest way to manage the conversation with this group. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to stop my screen sharing, and I'm going to hand it over to Chad so he can do his screen sharing. And then I will just let Chad take over. Oh, Chad, you're not muted, or you are muted right now.
Thank you. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yep.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So good morning, everybody. I'm really excited I can be here to talk with you guys today about social media best practices. And like Angela said, if you attended the that webinar I gave back in the summer with Lisa, there's going to be some of the same materials going to be covered, but we really tried to expand it specifically to kind of address some of the issues or questions that you guys had at the first meeting. So I'm really excited to get into this with you guys and talk to you guys about social media. And like I said, if you have a question, put it into the chat box, and we will either address it in the course of the presentation or at the end. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing is like, why social? And this is some of the material that might be redundant to you if you watch the one in the summer, but it's always great to kind of refresh yourself anyway. So getting into it, what are the key benefits to social media? Social media statistics from 2019 show that there are 3.2 billion social media users worldwide, and this number is only growing. That equates to about 42% of the current population, and the business data platform Statista reports that 70% of the US population has at least one social media profile. So that's a great way to get in front of people, to connect to people in your area and beyond. One of the greatest benefits of marketing through social media is that it helps you cut your marketing costs without sacrificing results. HubSpot reports that 84% of marketers were able to generate increased traffic to their website with as little as 6 hours of effort spent on social media per week. So for small organizations like you guys, where you might just be comprised of a couple of volunteers, maybe one paid staffer, if that, this is a really great way to be able to maximize your time and maximize your budget with a great result. And according to Marketing Sherpa, 95% of online adults ages 18 to 34 are likely to follow a brand on social media. However, when users follow brands or organizations, engage with their social media profiles, it's because they find the content and information in these social media campaigns valuable. So that's just something you want to think about as you're thinking about what your content calendar is going to be like. And we're going to get a little bit more into what content could be, what might work best for you, and how to sort of measure that. All right, so who's posting, sharing, and tweeting? Social media usage has been broken down by eMarketer, and the results by generation are interesting. What they found was that 90.4% of millennials, people born between 1981 and 1996, 77% of Generation X, people born between 1965 and 1980, and 48% of baby boomers, 1946 to 1964, are active on social media. Millennials continue to be the generation with the highest use of social media and also the broadest access to smartphones. And of course, this is changing as Gen Z comes in, and they're sort of taking over sort of a lot of those social media spaces. Gen X, on the other hand, they happen to be more likely using social media on tablets. And lastly, baby boomers are bridging the gap with technology and are increasingly becoming more familiar with social media platforms, but especially Facebook. So when you think about your audience and who you're trying to reach or who you know is attending your festival, you might want to think about where you're going to devote your time on a social media platform. If your audience tends to be in that 55 plus range, then maybe Facebook's where you really want to be. If you are really actively trying to engage in a younger audience, then maybe you really want to focus your energy on Instagram. So just some things to think about. So who is using what? Instagram is the fastest growing platform to capture a millennial audience. And that's sort of true with the Gen Z audience as well, with 4.3 million users and growing rapidly. 40% of adults use Twitter or age between 18 and 29 years old, and that's more than any other group. And then baby boomers continue to favor Facebook with 31.9 million users, and that was based on a 2018 statistic. So Facebook. Facebook continues to experience a steady growth in users in spite of the occasional fluctuation. I think we've all had those moments where we hate Facebook or we love Facebook or we use Facebook to connect to a cousin we haven't spoken to in 1,000 years, but it still tends to be sort of the driving force of social media. And there are other reasons for that, but most people tend to sort of focus around there. So let's dive into some tips and tricks on how you can use Facebook to help expand attendance and awareness of your festival. So one of the things, as we were talking about content, think about how you can utilize Facebook videos. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has publicly stated that video will be the most consumed content on the platform in the future. In fact, Facebook video posts per person increased by 75% in 2015 alone. This means more people are viewing and sharing video content on Facebook than ever before. Since many people watch videos without a sound, a few elements that you want to think about when you're creating these videos is making sure that you keep users engaged very quickly and early on. So making sure that visuals are striking and that you have a text-heavy explanation of the content. So using captioning, which is in platform, you can use Facebook's ability to do that, and it keeps people on the video. Most people kind of only watch for about 15 seconds before they move on, and you want to make sure that your video is always under about a minute. So really 55 seconds is the longest, and most people don't even watch it that far. In terms of posts, the main thing to think about in terms of your copy that you're putting above whatever the link is or the image or maybe the video, you really want to make sure that link titles are short. You know, people are scrolling through their feed. You want to have something that's going to capture you, but you're not going to want to have to click the read more button. You're not really going to have to want to look at it for very long. So thinking about things, Facebook is unique in its way. You can post images, videos, short or lengthy text. However, many marketers see success on Facebook when they're short and succinct with content. Like we mentioned earlier, keeping your customers' attention is critical. This is why so many brands have seen success with shorter content on Facebook. So 40-character Facebook posts receive 86% more engagement over others. And so what I mean by characters is the actual letters and spaces and characters that you're using to actually communicate whatever your message is. 80-character Facebook posts receive 66 more engagement over others. So as you can see, keeping it short versus paragraphs and paragraphs of information is an easy way for your consumer, your patron, to read what you have to say, absorb it, and then actually engage. Where a lengthy Facebook post, they're probably just going to skip over and move on to. A lot of a question too is often when you should post or how frequently you should post. And a lot of this we're going to get into actually when we talk about understanding your Facebook analytics. But it's really important to at least consider posting twice a day. If you search for the appropriate amount of posts per day on Facebook, you might get a lot of, well, posting frequency keeps depending on your business. And that's all of that is true. But you have to understand that as you post on Facebook, the more actively people see your posts, the more likely it's going to be fed further in the later on in the algorithm, especially since you're kind of relying on organic traffic. The average feed has hundreds of stories filtered from band pages and friends. Without overdoing it, at least 2 posts per day guarantees freshness, consistency, and a high chance to get discovered without annoying your audience. People tend to view Facebook at lunch or at the end of the day, which makes afternoons and early evenings between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. prime for posting. Don't stick to exact times though. Once you start to get to know your audience, you can use Facebook Analytics to help determine when your audience is generally on. And you can actually see that as we get into your management. A little feedback there. And also remember too that social media is all about conversations. So regardless of the platform, it's important to make sure that the content you are sharing is relating to what's happening in the world. Posts about holidays, local happenings, and news, stories that feel relevant to the type of audience that attends your festival. So this could be maybe if you're featuring a certain director, if you're a film festival, you might want to post something about a new release that's coming out. Or maybe you want to talk about something that's happening within the industry. If it's about jazz, you could be posting about concerts happening in your area beyond the festival, or maybe other jazz festivals that are sort of close to you regionally. A lot of it has to do with sort of being relevant to what's going on. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to talk about everything or have a comment for anything that's happening currently that day, but you want to make sure that if you're doing that, if you're actually commenting on it, it is relevant to your mission, to what you do, and that your audience is going to actually engage with it. And we can get more into that too at the end of the presentation if you guys have specific questions. So now here's the big thing that I want to talk about, which is understanding your Facebook analytics. Because if you know how to understand your analytics, it's going to help you decide what kind of content you're going to want to push out. It's going to help you decide when you want to do it and how frequently you should be doing it. The first thing, this is just sort of a general overview of just sort of some terms that you might want to familiarize yourself with when we talk about analytics. So impressions, that's the total number of times any content from your page was seen in a newsfeed, ticker, or visits to your actual Facebook page. Post impressions, post engagements, that's the total number of comments, shares, or reactions to any post that you've shared. Link clicks, that means the total number of clicks on links with your content, excludes other links such as photos, video, or post expansion clicks, which is like the read more. And then organic likes, that's the total number of new users who liked your page by organic reach. Unlikes, which we never really want to, never want to see an increase in those. That's the total number of users that have unliked your page over a period of time. And then total fans, and that's the total number of users who liked your page from the last day or the report period that you're looking at. So just keep some of that in mind. I know some of you guys might have experience in marketing, some of you don't, and often people are kind of confused, especially around impressions and what that actually means. Really, that just is kind of sort of the number of eyes that actually see any given post that you put out there. And then really post engagement is actually people causing to create an action, whether it's liking it, sharing it, commenting on it, things like that. One of the first things, Facebook has really expanded how you can get to know your audience a lot better. There is Facebook Insights, but I would encourage all of you, if you have an official page for your festival, to go out and create a business page on Facebook Business Manager. what this allows you to do is it allows anyone in your organization that is dealing with social media to actually access and monitor and manage your Facebook account, your official festival's Facebook account, without actually having to link it to their personal Facebook profile. On there, you can view your advertising, you can view your analytics, and you can actually post directly from the page. So it's a great way to kind of all-in-one platform, all-in-one dashboard of seeing everything, everything you need to know about your Facebook account and your audience. So it heavily encourage you to do that. And you can see on the screen, you just go to business.facebook.com/create, and you can create that account, and it'll link to your current existing page. It'll just pull all that information into one dashboard for you. So when you log into that account, what you'll see initially is your 28-day summary. And this is sort of the default setting that Facebook gives you. And what it kind of overall is showing you is everything that's been going on with your audience in the last 28 days. Now, if you don't have a Facebook manager page, if you don't have a business page set up already, it's going to take you a little while to actually get some of this information there, because it takes Facebook a little bit of time to generate all this information about the audience that is interacting with your content in your page. So you might want to give it a little bit of time, but just so you know, when you log in, this is what you're going to see. And across the top of the homepage, as I said, Facebook auto-generates the 28-day summary. This summary includes unique users, week 1 retention, post impressions, and messages received. You'll be able to see the difference in engagement from the previous month, which can be helpful to track your page's progress. Your homepage may be overwhelming at first because there's a lot of graphs, there's a lot of data that can be very terrifying, especially if you're not sort of an analytic mind. And believe me, I am very left brain oriented myself. So sometimes that kind of stuff freaks me out. So I'm going to break it down some of this for you to kind of understand what you're looking at. And that way you can get yourself familiarized with what you'll be seeing. So the first thing I want to talk about is growth metrics.
Oh, Chad, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you mind going to the previous screen? Eric had a question about business accounts.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to let Eric ask it, actually, if you want to, Eric, if you want to unmute yourself.
Sure.
Yeah, simply, I find that when trying to boost posts on Facebook, that it's very clunky, the application itself to get the data in that you want and pick all of the options. I'm wondering if this business page is going to be a little more user-friendly in your experience.
So essentially what the business page will do is often, so if you're boosting a post, for instance, that is going directly through sort of the front end. I'm saying front end, and this is like sort of a technical word for it, but the front end view of your Facebook page. So you as an admin see a post, you want to boost it. I'm guessing you're seeing the little boost button on the side of the post, and you're clicking on that. You're getting a limited option of what actual Facebook advertising provides you. So if you actually had an advertising account, which you'll need to set up if you're doing a boosted post, but you'll actually get a broader sense of various campaigns that you can create in terms of goals, and then also in terms of developing your audience and where you want to place those ads. So what Business Manager will allow you to do is you'll be able to access both the front end of your Facebook page, but then also the advertising section of Facebook. So I don't know if I find it to be the same in terms of actually the process, but it'll be an all-in-one place. So it'll be hopefully easier for you to track things and to find what you're looking for. Did that answer your question?
It does, thank you, and we will explore it. It sounds worth doing. Just as a quick follow-up, what is the for every Facebook page that we run? So I'm admin on like 2 or 3 pages.
Mm-hmm.
I need a separate business page for each one of those, right?
So what you can do is, as an individual, yes, you would need a separate business page for each of your official pages. As an admin, you can be invited to those so those dashboards will show up when you log in as a user. So for instance, I am the admin for Arts Boston's account. So when I log into Business Manager, I see the Arts Boston page. I also run a few other Facebook pages for some social groups. And so I have access to those in my dashboard. So you'll be able to kind of log in on as yourself as a user and be able to access those different dashboards depending on what your access is.
And then Chad, just another question that is relevant to all of this. You mentioned setting up a business account, and Kate is looking for some clarification. Is a business account different from an advertising account? Are those two different things you'd want to set up?
Yeah, so an advertising account specifically deals with advertising on Facebook. Your business account will link to that, so you'll be able to kind of see it all in one place. Excuse me. And then in addition, you'll actually get access to a deeper dive into your analytics. So right now, if you don't have a business page set up, you'll be able to see Facebook Insights, which is kind of a more limited version of the full scope of analytics that you get offered on the business side, on the business page of Facebook.
Okay.
So you'll want to set one up but it's not necessary. I just encourage you to do it because you can really get a really great sense of what's engaging with your audience and how to keep them coming back to your page.
Okay, so it's more, it sounds like what you're outlining is more front end work, but a lot of benefit down the line.
Yes, and it's really simple to set up, and then all of the data just aggregates to your dashboard.
Okay, Kate, did that answer your question? I'm hoping it answered Kate's question.
Okay, what I'm wondering is you first set up your business account and then you set up an advertising account? I don't know what the advertising account is.
So the advertising account is for if you're running a paid campaign on Facebook.
Yeah.
Or you're boosting a post. If you're putting money behind something, that's what the advertising account's for.
Okay, thanks, Chad.
Yep. So the first thing I want to talk about is growth metrics. So this section consists of 2 analytic reports. We'll focus on active users in the first section. In this section, Facebook tracks how active your users have been the last 24 hours. And you can do a deep dive by looking at the full report. As you can see, it sort of kind of gives you a sense of how active they've been. And these are people who are following your Facebook page. So you can see throughout the course of the day how active they are. And you can actually get into a fuller, deeper dive and actually add in different filters to kind of get a sense of who you're trying to track. This page will look similar to the unique user page. The only difference is that this graph tracks the activity of the users over the last 24 hours. By looking over this graph, you can determine when your audience is online and engaging with your content. From this data, you can easily determine the best time to post on Facebook for your business or your festival, and try out different posting times and see what is getting the most activity. The second section in growth metrics is user activity. The default view of this graph will show the number of active users in the past 2 days who are currently using your product for any given day, week, or month. And this data can be used to track your Facebook page's growth in progress. Does that make sense to everybody?
Chad, can you just clarify what user activity means? Is it people who've liked their pages, or is it something else?
So the way Facebook kind of frames it as using your product, so that could be engaging with your posts, like sharing content, talking about you as a if a user tagged you in a post of their own, if they shared your content, if they liked your content, that kind of thing. The second thing, the next section that you'll see on your dashboard is engagement metrics. Just like active users, Facebook lays out a tile graph that details when your audience interacted with your business page. For this example, we can see that Arts Boston has active users on Thursdays and Fridays, the most active hours being Thursday from 3 p.m. and up to 8 p.m. Just from looking at this graph, you'd be able to decide when to post your most important content. If your audience is most active on a specific day or during a specific hour, take note of the difference in engagement in the post at that time. So unlike Twitter, which is like an immediate thing, one thing you have to kind of think about Facebook is sort of when you're posting things and when there's going to be the most potential impact, especially if it's just an organic post. So if you're announcing tickets are going on sale for a certain screening, or you're wanting to announce a big headliner to one of your festivals, you're going to want to look and see when people are most active during those time periods. And then that's maybe when you want to decide to share that content. So it's just another way of thinking about when to share sort of important news or just a general, something you really want people to get eyes on. That makes sense? Any questions? All right, so the next section is page metrics. And page metrics consists of 4 sections: post reactions, post shares, post comments, and messages sent. You'll be able to see how your posts have been resonating with your audience. Have they commented on them, shared them with friends, reacted to them on their timeline? This is the place you'll want to go when you want to assess if your content is working well. AKA, if you're seeing your engagement numbers continuously rising. If not, try something new and keep an eye on these metrics. It's all about troubleshooting and adjusting when it comes to analytics. So just understand that there's never going to be a set guideline of how this is going to work. You're always going to want to constantly be testing things, checking things, and seeing if they're working. If you're seeing that you posted something in particular and people are really responding to that type of content, you might want to post more of that. So yeah, so it's all about going back and constantly checking and seeing how people are responding to your stuff. The other thing that you want to make sure that you're paying attention to too is that is people can actually send you direct messages to your page. For Arts Boston, oftenly it's a customer service queue that we get, so people interested in tickets through our Boston ticketing program. So you want to make sure that you're going to be responding to those messages as they come in and have some sort of system in place, because the quicker your response time, the better that Facebook will actually rate you as sort of as a company. So just keep that in mind as you're posting information out there. People may be sending you direct messages on Facebook to kind of want to know more about your festival, a specific event, how to get tickets, where to park, and you're going to always want to kind of monitor that so you can respond appropriately. So the other section, the last section of your analytics homepage is the people metrics. And this is where you're going to get a lot of your demographic data about who is following you and engaging with your content. In this section, you'll see data regarding gender, age, and location. Think of this section like a demographic snapshot. This is where you'll get to know your audience. Knowing their age can help you post and promote content that will be the most relevant to them. And knowing where they live can help you target specific locations. Plus, you can save money by not advertising on locations where your audience isn't. When you're thinking about how to advertise on Facebook, looking over these demographic analytics can make a difference. If you're spending money advertising to people in London, when your audience is primarily in like Eastern Massachusetts, you can tweak your campaign to spend the money elsewhere. If you click on the full view report, Facebook details the analytics further, and you'll be able to see the cities that your audience lives in and what language they speak. So this is really important too. If you're a multilingual festival, you're really going to want to make sure that your content isn't just necessarily in English, but actually is focused. If you see like 50% of your, or more so, is in Spanish, then you're really going to want to make sure your content's in Spanish as well. And then so just to, again, just kind of overview of everything that we've talked about between Facebook content and then sort of your analytics. The benefit of looking over your analytics is learning how to use the data to inform your next campaign. For example, if you notice that your business sees the highest number of conversions after running a poll, it's clear that you can assume that more polls would be beneficial to get more of them to convert to becoming attendees to your festival or becoming fans of your festival instead of just followers. And you can do a deep dive into your analytics. The more you study, the better you can understand your audiences, where they live, what content they like, and where your ads should be placed, and what your strategy you should implement when you're communicating with them. So a lot of this too can be really important when you're thinking about not just where you're advertising on Facebook, but if you actually have the benefit of being able to advertise in traditional media places like radio or television. If you know sort of a customer profile of who's coming to your festival, that is really going to be helpful for you to inform if you want to spend money on doing some on-air radio with a certain station, or if you want to invest money in your local paper. If you find that you have a younger audience and maybe they don't read traditional media, you might want to look at alternatives to that. So a lot of the understanding your audience through Facebook is a really great way to kind of overall inform your marketing practices beyond just digital. And next, I really want to talk about Instagram. Instagram is probably my favorite social media platform by far. I'm a frequent user. I love it. I'm really big into visuals, so it's a great place for me. And Instagram has over 1 billion active users and counting. New features and functions for businesses are being rolled out on a regular basis. So there's always something new that you can test out and try to engage with your audience. And honestly, it really is changing every single day. So if you are someone who just loves to experiment, or you're just one of those marketers who loves to test new tools, it's a great platform for that. So I want to talk about some tips and tricks that you might be aware of, and maybe you're not, about how to best utilize Instagram to attract new followers or new patrons to your festival. So organizations often obsess over their photos and captions, so much that they forget about one of the most important pieces of real estate on Instagram, and that's their profile bio. Your Instagram bio represents some serious valuable real estate. From funneling visitors to your event to serving as a call to action, there's a ton that you can do with just a few words. So here's a quick checklist of things that you want to include in your bio regardless of what you're promoting. You want to make sure that you have a branded hashtag to encourage tagging and sharing. So it could be the name of your festival, it could be some special promotion that you're doing leading up to that festival. You want to make sure that there's something that encourages people to use that if they're sharing their content with you. Often what we do here at Arts Boston, we use either the hashtag BossArts, or we will, during the holiday season, sometimes we use the hashtag Boston Holiday. So that way we can track people's experience with our content, and then we can also share some of their content. A slogan or a brief description that speaks to your organization or brand voice is really important too. So that could be your mission statement. That could sort of be what people might expect from you, what you're excited about, things like that. An Instagram-specific relevant bio link pointing to your homepage or your promotion. You can use a URL tracker like Bitly to further assess your Instagram traffic. So I would typically have on the Arts Boston Instagram the calendar homepage. But if I'm doing a specific promotion over one of our events, whether it's a panel discussion, I will actually change out the bio, so that way when I do posts and I say link in bio, people can go to the relevant page on our website. So again, the what and when and how and what's the best time to post. The most pressing Instagram tips for festivals is stories. So if you think about your content, make sure that Instagram stories is a big part of that. Stories represent a clear priority for Instagram right now. They're some among the most popular types of content by far. If you're familiar with Snapchat, Instagram was able to basically take that technology and copy it into its own platform. And now it's a huge, huge part of the Instagram experience. Users can't get enough of today's time-sensitive self-destruct style content. So just think about kind of incorporating that a lot into any sort of social media campaign that you're doing. The other thing too with stories is now Facebook is incorporating that as well. So you can do stories on Instagram and send it directly over to your Facebook page or vice versa. The beauty of stories is that there's no expectation for them to be super polished. Snapshots, selfies, bite-sized posts that show off your brand in the real world can be put together in no time. So it can be literally getting a customer's testimonial. It can be you guys planning something. It could be a sound check. It could be, maybe you're sharing your graphic design of what the festival is going to be. Stories, there's no rhyme or reason about what works in terms of they have to be super stylized, content pieces. I would encourage you to post at least once a day on Instagram, but much like Facebook, think about when your audience is most likely using Instagram, and you can look at your analytics to see that, and checking their social media and adjust accordingly. Make sure to post videos and photos with a call to action. And so here are some examples of how you can drive fans and followers to take action via captions, asking questions, encouraging sharing via hashtags and regrams. Those are great ways to get people to take an action based on a post that you're doing. And of course, having that link in bio in your caption is always helpful as well. Another thing to consider is harnessing the power of influencers. Influencer marketing is one of the best ways to gain success on Instagram. With frequent collaborations, your marketing campaign can build loyalty, potentially drive sales, and increase your festival's brand exposure. And when you think of social media influencers, you might be thinking of celebrities, and that's definitely true, but every community has its own sort of social media celebrity. These are called micro and macro influencers. So people who have between 1,000 to 100,000 followers that you can activate to get them following your own brand and engaging with your festival. Those are some of those are the sort of the people that you want to look at. By using these tips, you can start witnessing results with Instagram influencers. So some simple things are invite influencers to come experience your events. You can think about people who do some research using some hashtags. Maybe it's jazz, maybe it's Latin dance, maybe it's Caribbean Boston. You know, there's a hashtag out there for everything. And from that, you can kind of view people's profiles and do a little bit of research to see who has some social media following on Instagram. And then you can actually reach out to them and talk to them about how you can do a collaboration. Also, if you have special guests coming in, whether they're performers, you can ask them to do takeovers. So that's a really easy thing to do. So there are a couple ways you can do an Instagram takeover. You can give your social media influencer full access to your brand's account. So you give them your credentials, they log in, they post on your account for you, talking about their experience, what they're excited about the festival. They might be doing stories, they could do actual full-on posts, they'd be doing videos, things like that. And then the second way to do it is you actually reach out to an influencer, you kind of frame how you kind of want it to be, and they provide you all the content, and then you post it out for them if you're not comfortable sharing your credentials. Another thing you want to consider too is doing shout outs to other brands, festivals, companies in your area that have a good following. It's a nice way to get them engaged with your Facebook or your Instagram profile and getting them to kind of share your content and respond to it, because then their followers will hopefully see that and like start following you. And then another simple way too is also to consider doing promotions and contests. So you can reach out to a local blogger, you could reach out to a news outlet, and then you can do sort of a giveaway or some sort of special promotion to them that actually tags back to your Instagram account. So just as an overview, remembering that Instagram is a very visual platform, it is helpful if you have sort of brand guidelines about how your images look. People tend to prefer sort of images that show a lot of light. Bluer tones actually kind of work better for other people. Make sure that you use hashtags. They're a really great way to connect to users and to get images out there so people can follow and track you. And it's also a really great way to get to be able to find content that's being generated by your followers based on your brand. Remember that 90% of Instagram users are under the age of 35, so it's a young audience. So think about that in terms of your copy. You want to make sure that it feels young. Grow your followers by following other people. And like I said, establishing a brand aesthetic. So when people see a picture, they know it belongs to your organization. And then the last part of today I really want to touch on just briefly is Google AdWords. Because Google AdWords is a great way for you to reach out to people and drive traffic to your website with a little cost. And especially because Google actually offers an AdWords grant. So ad grants are done by Google for nonprofits, and it gives you up to $10,000 a month to be able to create searches on Google to drive traffic to your website. There's an example here for building a well in Africa. That's an example of a Google ad grant. So how to be eligible? You have to hold a current valid charity status, so a 501c3 in the United States. Acknowledge and agree to Google Grants required certifications regarding how to receive and use donations obtained from the grant. And then have a website that is both functioning and provides adequate detail on your nonprofit. And then once you've scored your Google Ad Grant, there is an application process. It takes a couple hours to fill out. The big thing is about maintaining it. So all ads in your account must link to your nonprofit URL that was approved in your application process. You have to be proactive on Google ads. So you have to go in there monthly and manage your account, make changes, test new things, change copy, things like that, build new ads. The ads you're promoting must reflect the mission of your nonprofit. And you can advertise to sell products as long as 100% of the proceeds are going to support your program. The ads you create cannot point to pages that are used to primarily send visitors to other websites. So you can't sort of serve as a redirect, and your ads cannot offer financial products such as mortgages or credit cards. Your ads can also not be asking for donations in the form of large goods such as cars and things of that nature. And so every month you receive $10,000 in AdWords credit. If on the month you spend 6 out of 10 of those 10,000, you will not receive like a $4,000 check for the remaining difference. This is just a credit through AdWords. It's pretty simple. You use it or you lose it. And when your ad is live, you're never charged for being live. Your account is only charged for the users per click on your ad. And when you say, you were charged, that means cost per click will be deducted from your $10,000 account. So what's great is this actually doesn't come out of your own budget. You're really just Google's just giving you this money to be able to actually promote your mission and what you do. So it's a really easy way it's a great way for you to actually kind of reach out in Google search ads. These are just search ads. So there's no images involved in it. You don't have to worry about that. And it's also a really great way to test copy as well, because you can see, looking at your ad analytics, what sort of words and what sort of copy is working best, and you can apply that actually to social media as well. Just as an overview for today, and then we'll open it up to questions and discussion. Remembering that social media is a hugely visible platform. You want to make sure that your image size is correct. Video is a great way to maximize engagement. Have a content strategy and schedule in advance, but leave 50% of your posts flexible to respond and react. I know there's been a lot of questions about, well, how early do I start promoting the festival? It honestly really isn't about, I don't touch my Facebook page until 3 months before the festival. It's really about constantly having some sort of content that you're sharing out with your audience. And you can schedule that in advance, and there's great tools out there like Hootsuite that you can use to do that. Always link to your website whenever possible, because it's really what you want to do. You constantly want to driving traffic there. And you don't have to post to every platform. Make sure that you're being consistent with at least one of them, and that might be Facebook for you, that might be Instagram. It really depends on your audience. We didn't really talk about Twitter today because I feel like Twitter, while I think is an important social media platform, it's really more about news and conversation and obviously politics. And for a lot of cultural organizations, Facebook and Instagram are kind of the ways to go. And then also get out there and look at other platforms and think about, look at other research tools out there. So in terms of like where you can find more information on how to use Facebook and utilize Instagram better, think about HubSpot, Capacity Interactive, TechCrunch. There's a lot of different tools out there and resources that can give you a lot more information that we didn't actually get into today. So thank you all for being a part of this, and let's just open up to questions.
Great. Chad, thanks so much. So just a couple things that I want to make sure to say to the group, and I know, Chad, you've not been looking at the chat at all. And also for those folks who aren't looking at the chat, one, I just want to remind you, this presentation deck is going to be sent out to everyone afterwards. So, don't worry if you didn't write down every single little thing on every slide. We'll send that out to you. And for those of you, I think maybe one or two of you can't necessarily see the screen, so you'll certainly get the deck. And of course, everybody in the cohort, even if you're not logged into the call, everybody will get a copy of the deck. So like the really specific detailed content are things that you don't have to worry about writing down. Chad, just so you know, lots of questions have been coming through the chat, and I've been asking you some of them. One thing I really love, and I just want to give a shout out to everyone, some people have been asking questions, and then other people in the cohort have actually been responding to them. So some of those questions I haven't even bothered to say out loud. And then there's a couple of other questions that, we've just been holding until the Q&A. One I think that makes sense to start off with as we've been getting, there's been a couple of questions about frequency. You know, one is what's the reasoning behind posting 2 times a day or 1 time a day? And then also, you know, because everybody here is running a festival that's a, you know, an annual event. So there's really only 1 time a year, you know, how to kind of address this challenge of trying to engage on social media year round, even though you might not have a lot of content or maybe even bandwidth to really do that year round, especially when your event is once a year.
So the reason why I suggest at least 2 times a day on Facebook anyway, is when you think about how frequently you actually see posts from the brands that you follow. This is not like your friends who, if they post frequently, you're constantly seeing their posts in your newsfeed. I'm thinking about companies or other arts organizations that you might follow and how often you actually see their posts. You know, you might post something and it might take up to 3 or 4 hours for someone to see it. And if there's no engagement, Facebook isn't going to serve it to anybody else. They're going to actually kind of bury it in your followers' time feeds. So by posting at least twice a day, there is an opportunity that your followers are actually going to see it. If you have, say, about, and this is true for Arts Boston as well, you know, and we don't do a one-off annual festival, we're promoting the arts 24/7, 365 days a year. We have about 35,000 followers on Facebook, and on average, about 3,000 people might actually see a post will get about 3,000 impressions. So that means 3,000 people out of that 35 who follow us get to see what we're actually posting organically. And so if you have a smaller following, they're going to see a lot less than that. And when there are gaps in when we're posting, because I'm the marketing person here, so I'm doing the social media, I'm doing our email marketing, I'm doing all of that stuff. Sometimes our post frequencies aren't as frequent as I like them to be. I try to do actually 3 to 4 a day. I actually see that dip. I see it dip from about 3,000 to 1,000 impressions down to 600. So you want to make sure that you're posting at least frequently enough that you're actually getting in front of your users and then they're engaging in it. Because if they're not, then Facebook isn't going to serve your content out to people because they're determining that it's not relevant or engaging to users. And what Facebook's ultimate goal is, they want to keep people on the platform engaged because they want to be able to make sure that their advertisers are getting their ads seen. So that's why it's really important that your posts are engaging. In terms of a long-term strategy, it is very daunting, the idea of like posting constantly. But again, it's that if you are silent for 3 or 4 months and then you start posting, people probably aren't going to see what you're posting because there's just, you haven't been posting, you haven't been frequent there. So people aren't engaging with your content. So I would say that think about a long-term strategy. There is the opportunity to talk about leading up to the festival. And then after the festival, talking about, you can be sharing images from the festival, from the previous one. You can be talking about, you can be doing surveys about what you want coming up next. I think it's really great when organizations actually don't just share content about themselves, but share content about their community. So being actively engaged with what's happening in your town or your county or your city. So you can be talking about new businesses that are opening up. You could be talking about other arts organizations and sort of helping to share their information. I think is really great. And those are some strategies that you could actually use to keep people constantly engaged with your brand, even when you're not necessarily doing anything. Did that answer the question?
I think so, but I'm just going to invite everyone in the group to, you know, ask either follow-up questions to Chad's response or ask questions. You know, you're welcome to just unmute your phone. I know I see right now, even while Chad was talking, there are more questions coming through. But now, like, I'll just invite folks to unmute their phones and just ask questions.
Can I ask one? This is about Facebook advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So I manage 8 pages and they're all connected to my personal account. And I think you spoke to this, but it wasn't clear for me. If I do a boost post, it's attached to my personal account where I had to go put a credit card number there.
Yeah.
Let's say for the Pioneer Valley Jewish Film Festival, how do I set something up where
Nicole and I can both log into the same account, and it's a PVJFF account, so that if we're boosting a post, it's not coming from either of our personal accounts. It's coming from a business account.
Yep. So that would be creating your Facebook business page. So I'm assuming that you already have a page for your festival, correct, on Facebook?
Correct.
Right. So you would go to that link that I mentioned. Hold on. Just want to make sure I'm giving you the right address. It's you would go on to business.facebook.com/create. And there you would link your festival page to a business account. So that way you could go on there and you could manage your advertising from that platform. Anyone can log into it as long as that person is an administrator on your business account. So for what I had to do, when I first started at Arts Boston, for instance, we actually had a Facebook page that was a private personal account called Arts Boston. And that's how our official Facebook page was managed. I linked that to my account, eventually the official Arts Boston page, to my personal account just so I could actually get in there easier. Now with the Facebook business page, I don't even have to log into my personal Facebook account anymore. I can just log into that directly and manage Arts Boston's Facebook advertising and all of our analytics for our official page. So that's how you want to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Chad, in general, just in terms of some of these like nitty gritty questions about like Facebook and Instagram or Twitter, do you feel like just going and looking at like the Facebook help is useful, or is there a different place, or
yeah,
what's a good way to like help people as they're kind of moving forward and doing?
So Facebook has a lot of FAQ pages out there about how to set things up and how to kind of maneuver things. I would also say just Googling and like how to do X. There's a lot of digital marketing companies out there that really dedicate a lot of manpower. Obviously, they're trying to get you to use their services, but they really do dedicate a lot of manpower about actually explaining how certain platforms can be utilized, how to get started on certain things. So HubSpot is really fantastic in terms of actually providing a lot of easy beginner guides to how to do certain things. So I would encourage you to just look at them as a toolkit. But yeah, you can actually go onto Facebook, and they have they don't have a great customer service in the sense of they'll have a chat box and you can talk to someone from Facebook, but they have a lot of FAQ pages that you can read through that will explain how to set up your business manager page, how to set up your advertising, things like
that. I have a question for Facebook posting. Do you use some sort of guidelines on what you're going to post to help focus the attention of viewers?
So I think what you need to part of this is understanding your audience, who's coming to your festivals, who's following you on Facebook, and then making sure that your content is relevant to them. So obviously, if people are coming to your festival because they like, I'm just going to use this as an example. Let's say you have a pottery festival. So there's an assumption there that people are really into ceramics, right? You can post content about that and people will find that engaging. But if you find that your audience, if you're doing a lot of video content and no one's engaging with the video content, and you're looking at your analytics and it's saying, well, that's not working, but just a post of an image of a ceramic piece with some copy, that actually gets a lot of engagement. Well, then I want to do that more. It's really about experimentation. So there's not going to be a one size fits all for everybody. I mean, what we do find is that things that are visual, like images and video, do kind of get people to stay a little bit longer and respond. But it's really going to be about what your audience actually likes. So you really need to think about that.
Thank you.
I have a question. I think that I see some like brands and organizations that I follow repeating posts sometimes, and especially for Facebook, where you're trying to kind of get this, I don't know, like get into the feed. Is it okay to repeat content?
It's totally okay to repeat content. I repeat content all the time because I don't have time to make new things.
Okay.
So I will often reshare information. I won't do it. So for instance, like Twitter, I will sometimes schedule the same tweet out 6 times that day, because people see, the chances of them seeing that tweet is 7 seconds, and then that tweet's gone. So in terms of like what people's feed is, and no one's actually going directly to your organization, your festival's page, and looking at your content. They're seeing it through their timeline.
Okay,
So,
and that's who you optimize. Like you're optimizing for that, not
exactly.
Okay.
So so it's totally fine to reshare the same content over and over again. You know, you might want to tweak it here and there. Again, you want to experiment and test. So it might be the same link, but you're maybe changing the copy just a little bit and seeing what people are responding to. One of the things that we noticed here is we were always going back between discount tickets and ticket deal. And what we found with looking at our analytics, particularly with Google AdWords, was that ads that use the copy ticket deal got a far more higher click-through rate than discount ticket. So what we did is we went through and changed all of our language to use ticket deal instead of discount tickets. But yeah, but you can definitely copy it. What I try to do in terms of Facebook anyway is if I'm resharing the same content, I don't do it on the same day. I kind of wait a couple days and then I'll reshare it. So
Okay, that's helpful. And then I think for a lot of us, the reality is that we are going to have quiet periods, as ill-advised as that might be. Do you have any tips for, like, is there a way we could come out of the quiet period? Like if we start
Just
posting
post.
3 months before the festival, would that help? Or like any
You
advice along those lines?
You definitely don't want to be quiet for, 6 months and then a month before your festival start posting.
Yes.
Like, I understand that, you guys are all mostly volunteers and you might not necessarily have someone dedicated to do that kind of frequently posting every single day, but at least once a week in your quiet period, like you don't want to be dead, because it's just going to it's just going to get harder for people to actually see your content when it's important for them to see it. And the other thing to understand is, yes, you want them to come to your festival, but you want to get them beyond that transactional moment, and you want them to actually have a relationship with your festival. So that's really about brand building and getting them to know who you are as a festival, what your mission is, what your brand is, what you believe in, and what you stand for. And that's when people actually get really loyal and they become ambassadors, and they'll encourage their friends to start coming. For me, I mentioned Art in the Street earlier. I happen to be very good friends with the festival director, but I knew what that festival was about and what they believed in, because they were very kind of vocal about that stuff. And it encouraged me to become an ambassador and encourage other people who never went to the festival to go. And I was like, follow them on social. Their social's great. And they're like amazing. And you have the best experience, because it's about them building that relationship. And they, they had a quiet period, but they actually often ramped it up very quickly, like a couple months before the festival would start. So
I think I've been posting with the assumption that, like, I know that people aren't seeing everything I post, but I think I post with an assumption that posting too frequently is annoying, or filling up people's feeds too much. And I feel like one big takeaway that I'm getting from what you're saying is that that's not really the case.
No, half the stuff you're posting, no one's even seeing.
Yeah.
Honestly. So like and you can look at your analytics to really give you a sense of that, to see the frequency, the number of impressions you're actually getting on your post, whether someone's actually engaging with it or not. But like most people are not even seeing what you're posting. So don't be so concerned about like, oh, if I post twice a day, it's just no one's feed. Think about your own experience as a user on Facebook and how often you actually see, beyond maybe a news outlet, which Facebook. So it's interesting. Facebook tends to promote things heavily that people have an adverse reaction to. So things that are going to enrage them. And it's typically kind of a news thing, even though they don't want to consider themselves a public, like a media company. It's really news related. So when you think about your own experience as a user, usually what you find in your timeline is going to be probably news articles, content that gets people up in arms, so people are arguing back and forth about it, that kind of stuff. You're not really going to see a ton of stuff unless you as a personal user like and comment on a certain brand's every single post. You're probably not going to see that frequently in your own timeline. So just think about that too. Like, your own experience, and then if that's going to help like calm your fears that people are going to be like, oh God, this festival is always posting. I don't think you have to worry about that too much.
Just if you look at the time, I just want to say I think we've got time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions, Chad.
Okay.
I have a question, couple of questions really quick. We are an art and culture organization, so we run our own events all year long, but we also collaborate with other organizations on their events, so we help promote their events as well. So because our Waterfront Art Music Festival is our biggest festival, should we be promoting it like now for June, or should we wait for that 3 months prior to? Because we don't want to have people not get engaged in our current, like right now we're doing Festival of Trees, so we don't want our Festival of Tree event to get lost with the Waterfront Art Music Festival.
So I would say it's depending on what your goal is. So there's a couple things I want to talk about, some of the things that you mentioned. So again, it's moving away from that transactional moment to a more relational moment on social media. So if you're constantly saying to your followers, buy this, go to this, do this, they're going to be turned off. You need to you need to share with them content that's relevant to them and what's happening currently in their community. So definitely talk about whatever your current events are, that kind of stuff. But also it's really an 80, 20, 70, 30 rule about the content you're sharing. Not everything is go to this festival. Not everything should be buy this ticket. It really should be, here's something cool that we think you'd be into. You know, here's an article that we thought is really relevant to you. Here's something interesting about trees. You mentioned Tree Festival, so I don't really know what the content of that is, but like, here's something really, did you know this about maple trees? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's that kind of stuff. And then you can then follow up with an ask. So I think it's fine to every once in a while mention your festival in June, but you want to talk about the other things that are happening and other ways to connect with them beyond, say, go to our event.
Okay, and then you also mentioned that most people don't see your post. How do you get them to actually see it?
By posting content that's engaging to them.
Okay.
And you have to do that by testing things.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I've used a technique for the Jazz Fest where I will give away a pair of tickets for people who either share the post what I post or like our page. And then I will boost that post with money. Do you have any comments on ways that I can improve this technique?
So Eric, that's actually fantastic. I actually do the same thing often. If I have a pair of tickets to a performance that are coming up, what I will do on either Instagram or Facebook is I don't always do the share because sometimes it's hard to actually track who's sharing what. But what I will do is I will say, if it's like let's say it's a 4-pair of tickets, I say tag your 3 best friends in this post. I'll often do that actually on Instagram because it'll get more eyes on the post. But yeah, I think sharing, like getting people to comment and then share the post, I think that's a great way to get engagement. And especially when it's organic engagement, because Facebook kind of views that more heavily and they give more priority to that over paid. So I think you're actually on the right track. In terms of improving it, I guess it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to get more organic eyes on it, I would say maybe up the prize, try the tagging method. I find tagging is actually better for Instagram than it is necessarily on Facebook, just because you can't share things on Instagram. So tagging actually gets people to kind of look at the post. But yeah, I think
what I'm looking for is how to beat the algorithm, right? So the algorithm is limiting what Facebook limits who sees the posts. So how do I get around that by creating, which is better, shares, comments, likes, which is better for beating the algorithm, so to speak, as best you can explain. Obviously, you can write it.
It's definitely in terms of beating the algorithm. I mean, if I knew how to beat the algorithm, I would be working for some like multi-million-dollar corporation. But to beat the algorithm, really, so in terms of likes are not as important as comments and shares. So I would say go in that direction. If you are posting something, I would say encourage people you know, if it's a contest type thing, I would encourage people to share the post and to comment on the post, and that's going to actually generate a lot more organic engagement than likes, because likes, they're important, but they're not. They're in terms of like moving that to the front of the people's timelines. It's really going to be more of the comments and more of the shares.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can click like, but not everybody actually makes a comment. And you
Right.
also mentioned tags, tagging friends. That seems to me that would be pretty effective too, to push Facebook to keep moving it around, because Facebook looks at it and says, hey, this person's sharing it with 3 of their friends. That means we should probably move this up on the priority list.
Yeah. So tagging is. So I use tagging mostly for Instagram. I don't really use it as much. So what I'll do is, if I'm doing a giveaway on Instagram, I'll say contest to enter to win these 4 tickets to so-and-so, tag your 3 best friends in this post. Like this post, like Arts Boston, and tag your 3 best friends. That actually drives people, will get a notification and it'll drive them to that post. And hopefully they'll like it, they'll do the same thing and they'll tag. With Facebook, I find that it's a little less engaging, because I've done the same thing on Facebook, and I find the actual just getting people to comment and to getting to people to comment and share is a lot easier. Right now, I'm running actually a paid campaign for Dolly Parton's Smoky Mountain Christmas Carol, and what I'm finding is so far I have about 1,700 people who have entered to win these tickets. And what I'm finding is it's the comments that are helping to really drive. I mean, this is a paid promotion, but the comments are helping move it into an organic space. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, you pay for a certain amount, and you always find that when you get that organic activity, that the reach is far beyond what you paid for.
exactly, yeah.
So I'm just taking a look at the time, and I just, you know, Chad, I really love these questions, and Chad, I really appreciate the time that you're taking. I just am cognizant of the time, so I just want to wrap up with a couple of audience lab updates. It's almost noon. It's 2 minutes to noon. So I just wanted to finish up today by just reminding folks of a couple things that are coming up. And then, like I said, you know, we're welcome to keep this line open. I'm not sure how long Chad can stay on, but I will certainly, like I said, just keep the line open.
Angela, I can stay on for a little bit, but I'm just going to excuse myself for just a minute, okay?
Okay. Chad does not need to hear these updates, so that's fine. So just a couple of things for the cohort, and again, I'll email all of this to you afterwards, just as follow up. But one, we still owe you the demographic analysis. Everybody, I think every festival has actually sent us the data, any kind of audience data that they have. And we're still working with the analysis shop that we work with. We got, just apologies on my part, we actually work with a place called Clarity Campaign Labs, and they specifically work on political campaigns. So it might be no surprise that they were very busy up until November. But we're still working on that, but they will take a look at your data, and I'll come back with some information for everybody. Just want to touch base on the audience development activity. First of all, thank you, all of you who sent back revisions. It was really actually great to see how you're working through kind of thinking about your audience development goals and how you focused on them. If there's a couple of you, I know I owe you just a response. A couple of you have sent me some things in the last couple of days, so you should be hearing back from me about that. You know, you're welcome, if you want to set up some time to talk with me, you're welcome to do that. One thing I want to note about the audience development activity, we'll be circling back to this at a later point, but I just want to remind you, these are your own kind of unique goals for your own festival. And one thing that we're hoping that this will help you with is moving into your 2020 planning, and also making use of the trainings that we're offering, right? So there might be something about the social media training that will help you understand how do we meet the audience development goal that we articulated. And I think that's also true of the other trainings that we're going to have coming up in January, and then in, I think, March is the next one. So just, you know, just want to remind you that, you know, kind of, it's one thing to get a training, but it's another thing to apply it within your organization, and we're hoping articulating an audience development goal will help you with that. And then finally, you know, just a reminder about the next meeting. We're taking a break for the holidays, but then we'll convene again January 14th. That's going to be, again, a Zoom meeting. And of course, I'll send out some details in advance of that. So just wanted to make sure that I highlighted all of those things. Also, I just want to say in terms of the meeting notes, you know, it was really great to see the chat that was coming through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and summarize things because it looks like a lot of people have questions that then got answered within the chat. And so I'll just take a look through all of that and summarize it just so that it's captured. It's not going to be in the recording, but you'll have that somewhere else. So I think that's it on my end. And then I don't know, like I said, you're welcome to stay on. If you've got any further questions for Chad, he'll be back in a minute. If you've got questions for each other, you're welcome to just kind of start sharing or asking. And then also just a reminder, you know, there's files that I've shared with everyone in a Dropbox link, and that includes contact information for everyone. Everyone has said that they're comfortable with sharing contact information, and so I'd encourage you to reach out to each other if you've got questions for each other. But that's it on my end.
Hey, Chad.
Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering, what's the best online survey or poll that you can share on Facebook that's free, where you can get like deeper data on people, like email addresses or something like that?
What's the best? I don't think I understand your question.
So, like, say if I want to do a survey, like, what type of jazz do you like? What type of performances would you like to see? What would be like the best platform to do a survey where you get more data from the users? Like if I want to, like, you know, sign them up to be on the email list or.
So in terms of, Instagram actually has a tool for that. And Facebook kind of does, because Instagram stories and Facebook stories are sort of the same technology. You can actually do a poll via that. The thing is with that is you're not going to be able to collect email addresses. The best way to do that would be, so I run lead generation campaigns every couple of weeks to build our email list, but I do that through a giveaway. You can't really do a poll. You can just run a campaign that's paid, but that's the thing, to collect actual email addresses through Facebook, you actually have to pay for that. You just do it organically. Unless you have you can create a sign up button on your Facebook page, which I would heavily encourage you to do if you don't have one up there. But beyond that, you can't really do it organically. The only thing that I've seen close to that is doing there's a feature on Facebook that people can respond to a question. And I've seen this on Instagram stories where you can ask a question and be like, do you want to learn about our thing? Sign up. And people can actually write in their email address as an answer. But that's the closest thing that I've seen to that.
That's pretty good. Where do you find that?
If you go under Instagram stories, it's a feature underneath there. But if you're like through your page, so let's see if I can show you. So if you go under create on Instagram stories, hold on, actually. Yeah, I think it's under Instagram stories. And then there's these different features that you can use to like go through, and you can ask questions. So this is like a yes or no question. This would be like for a poll, a general poll. But then there's this one, ask me a question. And so you can actually change the copy here to say, do you want to sign up? Do you want to learn more about us? Sign up for our email. And people can actually write in their email address. And you can actually boost this on social. The one thing is, depending on what your the size of your audience, you have limited features unless you're paying for it on Instagram. So for stories, Arts Boston just hit about 10,000 followers a month or so ago. So now I have access to a lot of things that I can actually add links into our stories that you couldn't add before. But to do that kind of stuff, if you are under 10,000, you actually have to pay for that.
Chad, it looks like Sandy, do you have a question? It looks like you did the little raise hand.
Also, Angela, just in case my screen goes black, my computer is at like 0%. So it might just go black suddenly. It's just my battery's about to die.
Okay. Sandy, did you have a question? You're muted. I don't know if you're talking right now. Okay, she might not have a question.
I'm unmuted, sorry. I tried to write something, but I guess the little hand went up. So I'm all set because I just got an answer to a question. Thank you, though.
Chad, do you recommend a service for combining posts on Facebook and Instagram?
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that? What was that, Eric?
Do you recommend a service for combining posts on Facebook and Instagram, so that way you're only posting in one location?
So,
and then also, would they also be able to be timed in advance? And that might be a solution for those organizations that want to disappear for a little while because they're tired of their event and want to walk away for a couple of months.
Yeah, so actually with Facebook, you can actually schedule in advance in the platform itself. They actually give you the ability to set up posts beforehand. And then with Instagram, the closest thing you can do in platform is to, so I'm just getting out my charger so I don't die on you guys. You can actually create drafts and then post them as you go through. But the best thing you can do is actually use, I use Hootsuite. So with Hootsuite, I can create posts for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our LinkedIn profile. And you can edit them each for each platform, schedule them in advance, and they send through earlier. The only thing you can't do through Hootsuite is you cannot do stories in advance. Those kind of have to be in time. You can prepare them and then post them up later on, but you can't pre-schedule them in advance.
Yeah, the group was recommending Hootsuite in the chat, so I was glad to hear that you concur with them.
I use them just because they're cheap, but you know there are other systems out there like Sprout Social. Sprout Social is fantastic. I've heard great things about them. I like the fact that with Hootsuite, you can. What I usually will do is I'll create a post for Facebook and LinkedIn, and then I will duplicate that post and just augment it for each of the other social media platforms. So, including relevant hashtags on Twitter or handles, and doing the same thing for Instagram.
I had a question that someone had actually posed in the chat that I thought was really helpful, which was about having an event page for your festival and just like whether that splits your traffic. And we actually have a page for the festival and then an event page, you know? And so I thought that was interesting. Do you recommend driving traffic to the core business page, or how do you tie together the two pages?
So I would, I definitely recommend if you're a festival, or you know, if maybe it's your big festival, maybe you're having like little off tertiary events that are connected to it. Definitely create a Facebook event for each of those things. Because what you're able to do with Facebook events is you can actually go in there and you can actually keep retargeting people who said they're interested or people who said they were going. You can actually keep retargeting them. It's also a really great way to build organic interest in your event. So one of the things that personally, just anecdotally, and Angela, we actually did some experimentation on this in the last version of the Audience Lab, but often when I'm on my timeline feed, I'm seeing all of the events that my friends said they're interested in or they're going to, and then it encourages me to actually want to like either look at the event, say that I'm interested, potentially click a link over to the website, that kind of thing. So I would definitely encourage you to build a Facebook event for your festival. The other thing is think of your Facebook event as content. So it's not competing with your Facebook page, it's actually content for your Facebook page. So the more people are engaging in your Facebook event, the more your actual other content's gonna probably potentially rank up higher on Facebook's algorithm.
What about groups? It's groups. Facebook groups are an odd thing to me. They seem it's a way for you to get content to everyone in the group because Facebook doesn't throttle back like it does people who just like your page, right?
Facebook groups are really about community. So I'm in a couple of Facebook groups. They're, you know, you can go in there and you can promote them. If there's, let's say there's the New Bedford Jazz community group. Yeah, you want to post your stuff in there, but I wouldn't invest a lot of time in it. In terms of like as a full-on strategy, you might want to post your links in there, but in terms of you as a brand, it's really about getting people to kind of connect with you and follow your content. Those are sort of, they exist, but honestly, there's so many people who are connected into groups that don't even pay attention to the content that's in them. I don't find them personally to be hugely beneficial, unless it's around a specific political cause or something socially oriented like that.
All right, thanks. I think that's about it, huh?
Is there any other questions?
Sorry, I want to leave space for someone else, but I just would ask quickly, any just sort of abridged tips for optimizing content in terms of video size or quality and image size or quality?
Sure. So in terms of video size, it's really about the length of the video. So as I said, people are often on their phone with silent mode on. They're not actually hearing any audio. So making sure that if you're doing a video, that it's very striking visually immediately, so people kind of pause, and also that it's followed up with some text-heavy explanation, because someone could be watching a really cool video, but if there's no text telling them what's happening, they're not going to be paying attention, because so many people are on their phones with their ringer off. So think about that when you're doing video. Under a minute is what you want. You don't want something over 3 minutes long. No one's going to view that. And people maybe at most will watch up to 15 seconds of your video. So you really want to be at that 55-second mark. Like, that should be the longest your video should be at. And then think about really making sure that any relevant information that you want them to know is sort of in the beginning of that video content. In terms of image optimization, it's really important to note that images that are extremely text heavy, Facebook does not like those. So you want to make sure that any image has only about 20% of the total image is used up with text. So you can include your logo, but like just make sure that there's not like a ton of text in your image. The other thing is, I would say now that Facebook and Instagram are linked together because Facebook bought up Instagram and owns it, make sure that your images are optimized for Instagram. So I always now default to, I used to use the 1200 by 627 pixels, which was the standard Facebook size image. Now I've reverted to the 1080 by 1080 pixel, which is more commonly used on Instagram, but now Facebook is actually adopting it too, which it prefers that as well. So think of that when you're posting images.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions for Chad or for each other?
Since there are no other questions, I got a kind of an off social media question. Does anybody recommend a Zoom type application to do conferencing for free or for nonprofits? Because Zoom allows you, if you have more than 3 people, that allows you up to 40 minutes, but you have to pay otherwise.
So Eric, I can tell you in the past I've used Google Hangouts, which at least the way that I've used Google Hangouts, it's been free. I would say though, it's not the most stable, which is why I personally am willing to pay for Zoom, although I understand it's better to avoid paying for something if you can, right? But Google Hangouts has certainly worked for me in other situations.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah. Well, thanks. And thank you. Huge thanks to Chad. He actually had a really huge project that he was in the midst of when we asked him to set aside this date and time to do this presentation. So Chad, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
You're welcome, and thank you guys all for joining me today on this. I hope it was helpful.
Thank you so much.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks everyone, and I will be in touch. And take care and enjoy the rest of 2019.
You too. Bye.
Great. Bye-bye. Bye.